Hello, everybody. Charles from GMAT Ninja here, GMAT Club's resident verbal expert. Here this morning with three gentlemen who have all taken the recently enhanced GMAT Online experience. All three of these guys also took the test center GMAT, but not most recently, only a few days after his online GMAT. So today we're going to talk about what is this new version of the online GMAT like? What do you need to do to prepare for it optimally? How does it differ from a traditional test center experience? So if you're watching us live, please punch in your comments. I'll do my best to answer as many of your questions as we can. So first, I'm just going to introduce these three gentlemen briefly. So we have Amitoj. He is a data science consultant with a 750 GMAT, big cricket fan. We have Vedant, 760 GMAT, has taken it in the last couple of weeks, both in the test center and GMAT Online, and he is a former investment banker, now working for a hedge fund, took his exam in Big Sur, California, one of the most beautiful locations I think you could possibly take a GMAT exam. And we have Rudolph, serial entrepreneur, co-founder of two companies, one that makes rotors for electric engines and an online shop for boat parts, among other things. So nice diversity of experience among our three panelists today. So if anybody has questions, like I said, please feel free to punch them in. I'm going to start with some really basic things and just go around the horn and ask these three guys to tell us kind of their impressions about, what they felt was really important as far as their preparation to sit down for the online GMAT. So I guess, Amitoj, let's start with you on this. So can you tell us a little bit about, so one of the big differences between test center and doing the test online is you're sitting at home, you've got your own computer, they're going to run you through a bunch of system checks and you've got to have everything set up just right in your environment. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And was there anything that you really want people who are thinking about taking the online GMAT, is there anything you really want to make sure that they understand before they sit down and take it?
Sure. I can take that. I think GMAT has done a good job of, arranging this online exam because for people based in India, it's all major cities are in lockdown and we don't have an option to go out and get to a center. So it's good that we have an option to sit at home and give an exam. In terms of advantage, I would just compare it with a sports metaphor. Just like a team has a home advantage playing in its home stadium, it's the same here, I think. So less palpitation of going to a center, driving there, coming back again with a disappointing score. So all of this is in a controlled home environment. So you've done this before, you've taken mocks at the same place. So there aren't any nerves, so to say, on the D-Day if you're testing at the home.
And I guess Rudolph, Vedant, anything that you'd like to add about just getting prepared and making sure that you have your computer set up properly? That's a good Vedant first. Go ahead, Rudolph.
The thing for me was that we couldn't use earplugs during the exam at home. So this could have helped a bit, I think, because you have to make sure that you don't hear any noises around you. In the test center, you just have earplugs. You won't hear most of the high sounds, but the thing is, at home you can, so better make sure that you have earplugs. The other thing for me was that I really cared about my internet connection because I didn't want anything to break down. So this is the reason why I set up, I bought like an LTE pass for my phone to be perfectly sure that I have like enough data volume during this exam, and I connected by my phone, with my computer to my phone. And then I had perfect LTE. I don't know how perfectly well it works in your countries, but in Germany, it's very stable. So you can better use this one instead of the normal option from at home.
Outstanding, thank you. And Vedant, anything as far as the setup that you'd want to make sure that people understand about the online GMAT?
I think having a stable internet is the most important thing. So Rudolph covered that. What I'd like to add is while preparing for the online exam, make sure you're giving your mocks and everything in the same place you'll give the actual exam, because it's a great way to get comfortable with the environment, and that way you can get used to how it will look and feel on the day itself. And like make sure the temperature of the room's fine. I messed that up. So make sure your AC temperature and everything is fine. Mine was set to 19.
So I guess let's talk about it a little bit, because I think what you're touching on there, Vedant, that I think is really valuable, and I think cuts to the heart of the question of whether you want to take it in a test center or at home, is to what extent did you feel more comfortable sitting in your own home than you did, let's say, in a test center? So Vedant, since you did both the online and the test center recently, what do you think?
So I'd say the biggest advantage was, like, for example, I did some warm up before the exam. So the exam felt like just an extension of my warm up. It didn't feel that stressful or anything like that. I mean, there was a proctor looking at me, etc. But that, because you're used to working there, you're used to working with the board, you're used to practicing on it. There's nothing new. Like when I went to the center, I had no practice with the strange rough sheet paper. So you can't, like, my pen was getting stuck on it, etc. At home, I had complete control on that. I knew exactly how it feel. I knew exactly what to do. You're just more comfortable there because I practiced there for months straight.
Awesome. And Amachos, let me ask you the same question, since you've done both the test center and the online GMAT. Where did you feel more comfortable? Did you feel like there was much of a difference between the two environments for you as far as your ability to feel comfortable and have a nice, clear mind for test taking?
Yeah, I think Vedant covered it pretty well. So for me, I mean, the biggest part is going to the test center itself. I need to drive there, I drive myself. So there's some cognitive energy spent on that exercise. Then you need to cool yourself down, probably meditate a little, and then go into the test center, go through the proctors, and then give it the exam. So this was much more friendlier because there wasn't any driving involved. There wasn't any transport involved. All I needed to do was to wake up at the right time, meditate a little, be in the right zone, and just start with it. So I think that's the biggest positive for me in terms of the environment for the two exams.
So one more thing I'd like to add is the one more big advantage is in your breaks. If you're giving it online at home, you can actually go lie down and get comfortable rather than just stand around aimlessly at the proctor just staring at you, which is a big advantage.
Wait, so if I heard you right, during your break, instead of just spending 8 minutes milling around, going to the bathroom, getting a snack, you lay down. Is that correct?
For 2-3 minutes, yeah. It's a good way to relax and
For me, it was the opposite way, because when I was at home and I took the break, I started to get tired after like the first session, and then I start to jump around a bit to get like to lift myself up, not to get sleepy. So I went to the restroom, and then after I tried to pull myself up to like stay focused for the next session.
I have a coffee shot for that.
And we're getting a bunch of questions about the whiteboard as well. So I guess let's go around. I'll start with you, Rodolfo. We'll go in the opposite order this time. Tell us a little bit about what you used for scratch paper or whiteboard, and how you had to have it set up, because we're getting questions about what the proctors ask of you in terms of the physical setup. Are they asking to see it now and again, or can you just leave it on your table like normal? And Rudolph, go ahead and get us started with that one, if you can hear us.
For me, it was just, I had the normal setup of my physical whiteboard that I bought in advance. I was practicing with it the whole time. And then the only thing what I did to my whiteboard is that I put some sticky stuff underneath so it wouldn't move too much. So this was my only concern, because this would be annoying during the exam. I wanted to like prevent anything that could stress me out. And but in the very end, you just have to show the proctor then the front side, removing your cleaning thing, and then the back side, and that's it. So before leaving to the break, it was a bit confusing during my exam, because the proctor told me when I showed, so when the break started, I showed the front and the back of my whiteboard. Then I just left for the break. Then I went back and said, yeah, here I'm back. I can like continue. So then my proctor told me, yeah, why didn't you tell me in advance that you go for a break? And then I told him, yeah, that you didn't tell me to tell it to you. So this is the reason why I didn't. But I'm all recorded for the whole time. So you should have seen that there is the front of my board, the back of my board, if you just like view the recordings, and that's it. So basically, after the person didn't say anything, and it was all fine. Yeah, but it stressed me out a bit.
I guess Amatosh next. So tell me a little bit about your whiteboard, and anything weird happened with it around the breaks for you?
Nothing weird for the whiteboard. The only thing that I think people can find useful is just that do all of your quant practice on the whiteboard, since whenever you start picking up quant, because then you can control your space in a way, right? For me, working on the whiteboard was a little advantageous because I had a very long way of doing math where I would write 10 steps, which weren't really needed. So for this, because there was a space crunch at play, I was really efficient in making, the right steps, and I used to write big so that I can know when I'm making any silly mistakes or not. So I think the whiteboard you can use the whiteboard to your advantage as well. You don't need a scratch pad to do well on quant, I think.
And Vedant, any thoughts on use of the whiteboard or how it impacted your breaks at all?
Similar to Amitoj, I also preferred using the whiteboard over Scratchpad because it just, I did actually a different strategy compared to most people in that I had a smaller whiteboard and would drop it after almost every question. But that becomes pretty brainless. So I could just start working on it, write my answer, whatever, and then just drop it while reading the next question. So that way I didn't have to think about space or anything like that. So I didn't spend bandwidth on that. And I got a very thin marker call from the US on Amazon, which took 1.5 months to reach. But in India, for instance, there was a big struggle in getting a thin, ultra thin marker, the XO one. So I had very thick markers, and it's very hard to actually work properly with a thick marker because numbers tend to get smudged. And you have to be super careful when drawing figures, etc. So I think it was worthwhile waiting for it. I do think that ended up helping me, especially with geometry.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you right, so it sounds like the three of you might have been using different styles of whiteboard. So Vedant, if I'm hearing you right, did you just have a single kind of one sheet board and you were using a super thin marker?
Slightly bigger than that, yeah. Super thin marker with a small board.
Okay.
And so my laptop's also closer to me, so I can see the questions more clearly rather than scooting forward and struggling that way.
Yep.
But that's a personal preference.
And then Amatosh, what did your whiteboard look like? Did you have just a single whiteboard, or were you using the 5-page scratch pad that you can order that looks just like the test center version?
No. I think we're not allowed to use the scratch pad. We just need a whiteboard. So the whiteboard was with the similar constraints that were mentioned on the site. So the exact those constraints. But what I found advantages to me was using the whiteboard in a portrait mode rather than a landscape mode, because the way you do math is from top to right, top to bottom, and not left to right. So I used to flip it and do it portrait wide so that I can have much space to work out a question. So that's again another advantage of using a whiteboard in a particular way to save up on space and time.
And so it sounds like the bottom line here is you all three of you, I think it sounds like, spent quite a bit of time practicing with the exact whiteboard. So the whiteboard that you used on your exam was something that you practiced with quite a bit ahead of time. And maybe that isn't the biggest deal, but it's one less thing to think about when you're on your test day. We did have a question, Vedant, if you happen to have your marker, somebody is asking to see it, this magical marker that you waited a month and a half for. So if you happen to have it at hand, okay, awesome. When you get back, we'll find. So we do have a question about existing 2 online GMAT attempts. As of right now, the story still is that you can only take the online GMAT twice. It does count to your limits of 5 in a year and 8 lifetime. And there are Vedant's magic markers. The Expo super fine tips. This channel is sponsored by Expo.
I was trying to import them in India, but I wasn't able to.
Yeah, such a struggle.
But I also got myself a super thin one because it really makes a difference if you get confused. Less. Exactly. That's definitely. Especially if you have to write in haste, then you can get confused easily. Like you can't read your own writing.
Yeah, geometry figures are a nightmare with thick markers.
Yep. Next question I want to ask you guys about briefly. Did any of you have any interesting interactions with the proctors? Any problems at all? I know Rudolph mentioned that during the break they said, "Hey, you didn't tell me you were taking a break," and his response was, "You didn't tell me I had to tell you, and you've got it on camera, so no big deal." Other than that, did any of you have interactions with the proctors that were distracting or interesting in any way? It's Rudolph. We'll start.
So my
with you on
proctor
this
was.
one.
Oh, sorry.
For me, they asked me one time to tilt down my screen and to show if I'm like doing something wrong or whatsoever. At least this is what I think. And it was during, I think, the quant section, and it was a bit disturbing because you're very focused and you want to better hurry a bit, but not too much, and don't get stressed at the same time. So this was just, yeah, not that nice, but I told the proctor that yeah, no problem at all, and everything was friendly. And I think if you just stay yeah, very focused and try to be as brief as possible, it will help.
Vedant?
So my proctor was actually super friendly and I didn't have any issues as such. After reading Rudolph's debrief, I did ask her at the beginning, like, would you like me to tell you if I'm going on a break? Because I plan on going on every break. She said, yes, you have to mention it. So in that so after you are done with your test, you have a 1 minute screen where just they ask you, would you like to take a break? So I took that 1 minute to tell the proctor that I'm going on a break. And every time she would ask me, will you be going on your break? And then I have to show my board, both sides of it. So just keep an eye out for that. Besides that, I had no issues. My laptop died in the verbal section in the last 5 minutes. It turns out the GMAT, the browser, eats a lot of battery. So make sure you have it plugged in. So when it died, it reconnected. I lost 2 minutes of time. The proctor didn't mention it, which is very surprising because the screen would have gone blank, but she didn't mention it at all.
Wait, so the proctor didn't mention it all. So your laptop died, so battery ran dead. So you were gone for a little bit. You plugged back in.
So just plugged it in.
Then,
my charger was nearby, so I plugged it in. And then it got switched on and continued exactly where I was with the time reduced. I was worried my exam would cancelled because from her viewpoint, I was gone. But she didn't mention it.
But no reaction. Interesting.
Nothing.
And then I'm a question. Any interesting? It's great. It's great that that didn't cause any real problems. Amachaj, any interesting interactions with your proctors at all?
Yeah, I think I was blessed with a good proctor as well. No major issues. She was very patient with me. She guided me with the steps at the start. She did mention at the beginning that if I take a break in the middle of the two sections, I would need to show her the whiteboard, the white version, rub everything off and show it to her and put it down and go back and do the same process when I come back. So I remember telling that to me specifically. So that fortunately was good for me. So I think my proctor was pretty patient with me. So no major issues.
Outstanding. We've had a couple questions about using mobile, using Wi-Fi. As long as the internet works, no problem. For those of you who are just joining us, Rudolph actually used a mobile hotspot, used his LTE data, didn't have any trouble. Somebody else asked, well, what happens if the internet goes out on you? And we essentially had a proxy for that with Vedant here because his computer lost battery power. So no problem, exam picked back up where it was. And somewhat surprised the proctor didn't say anything, but I think we've seen other reports of that sort of thing happening on the forum, and not a problem. You lose testing time, but other than that, it is not the end of the world, and just be communicative with your proctor if you end up having a glitch like that. Since I said the dreaded G word, let's talk about glitches. So that's something that we've seen probably hundreds of posts now about the various versions of the online GMAT, test takers having different problems with things. There's a handful of problems that still seem to be lingering. And I guess I'll start with, I'm trying to remember who had the issues. I think Vedant, had the most interesting issues to report. So tell me a little bit about some of the glitches you had during the online test.
I didn't have any glitches as such. My laptop died. Besides that, I had no issues. It was actually incredibly smooth, the entire process.
Okay,
Like compared to all the scary stories I saw on GMAT Club, there were no issues. On Big Sur, I gave it on the latest Mac OS,
And I think
which isn't officially supported.
And this was a very bold move,
Right.
I think, because I didn't do this. I decided to partition my my Mac, and it didn't work out perfectly well. Then I used the 11-inch MacBook of my girlfriend just to be perfectly sure that it is the right operating system. And yeah, then after I had to reset my Mac again.
So I did keep Windows installed on Parallels as a free trial, just in case I needed it. I didn't end up using it, but that might be a
Okay.
good step you could take if you're worried. Because it's a free trial, all you have to do is find some Windows legal CD and install it.
And since we've kind of veered over to operating systems, Amitoj, what did you use? Were you on a Mac, a PC? Tell us a little bit about your operating system. We've had a few questions about that as well.
Yeah. I spent a good time being compliant with everything. So I had a laptop that supported Windows. I took all the system checks. So everything was up and running. I remember mentioning Rudolph mentioning about internet speed. So I did check that I stay at home, so I ensured that no one else is using a lot of bandwidth at that time. So in case you're sharing Wi-Fi with people, just make sure that you have good strength through and through the test, and that's the thing that you probably want to consider.
Outstanding, thank you. So what we're finding is that the operating system, like you can be on the one that isn't recommended, probably not recommended to do that, but apparently the test still works even if you don't have exactly the perfect environment. That's exactly what they recommend. Do your best to hit the recommendations. If you don't, Vedant here survived just fine. I do want to get back to this issue of glitches. So Vedant didn't see any. Amitoj, did you have any technical glitches with the test at all? Anything operating funny when you did any of the test sections?
I was worried at the start that I would definitely face issues, but nothing major. Pretty much similar as a test center exam or a GMAT prep mock exam. So thankfully, nothing of that sort. But just for everyone who's trying sort of testing here, I would say just be prepared to encounter any issues and have that in your mind that you just power through the test and then take a call.
Rudolph, any issues at all with the test?
For me, I just had an issue within the essay section. And the thing that happened was when I was writing a paragraph. Then when I pressed Shift to capitalize the first word of the next sentence, so to say, then it selected the whole area before. So when I wasn't perfectly careful during this moment, and I had the issue 4 times, I think, or 3, then it deletes your paragraph that you wrote before, and you don't have an opportunity to go back. So you don't, at least I didn't find it. I tried like Control Z, and it didn't work. So I had to write it one more time during the essay, and like 4 paragraphs, I think, that that got lost during this situation. Yeah, this is so. Take care. Like just better watch out. You see in advance what gets marked. So if you write something and a lot of stuff gets marked, better before you capitalize the next letter, think about what you do.
So and I think the internet was going out a little bit. Okay.
So the essay error happened with me too. Be very careful in pressing Shift. Because even I'm used to typing really fast without thinking, and you just press Shift for capitals. But on the platform, it selects the past text and overwrites it. And there's no undo. Interestingly, spelling mistakes are underlined, which is not done at the center. But you can't undo, so that's a bad trade-off.
Okay, so if I'm hearing you guys correctly, and I think I saw this in your debriefs as well, and I think others have mentioned it online. So the only glitches between the 3 of you that you encountered, it's that when you press the Shift button to capitalize, specifically on the AWA section, it's highlighting a whole block of text, and then you risk deleting all of it, which in real life, if you're just working in Microsoft Word or Google Docs or something like that, no big deal. You hit Control Z, and you're going to undo your mistake. But the issue you're having is twofold. One is that you hit the shift button, it's going to highlight a whole block of text. And then if you accidentally delete it, there's nothing you can do because there is no undo button. Am I hearing you both correctly?
Exactly. Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. So moral of the story, don't anybody freak out about this, but if, I think, Rudolph, I think you posted your AWA score online, but you still got a 5, if I'm not mistaken. So it worked out for you. Vedant, were you happy with your AWA score in the end? Have you received it yet?
I got a 5, but I didn't prepare
Excellent.
at all for it. So I mean, it's fine.
So, moral of the story, part of why I asked you your score is a perfectly solid. This isn't gonna cause any trouble with MBA admissions. You both did just fine. So if that's the only glitch you're seeing on the GMAT Online is this shift, and so the shift highlighting a bunch of text, so you risk deleting things, and there is no undo. This isn't an apocalyptic glitch. This is something that both of you survived just fine. You got through it. You still got really, really good scores on AWA that are not going to impact your life in any negative way. So if you're watching this and you're saying, no, I would really prefer to take this in the comfort of my own home, if this is the only glitch we're seeing right now, it probably isn't the biggest deal. Again, partly because AWA isn't the most critical thing in admissions. So if anybody freaked out about that. Any other comments on glitches? Anything else from any of you three?
So I had a glitch in my offline center exam. The internet kept going on and off through my quant. So it went off, I think, thrice. Most of the times it went off like maybe a few seconds, but one time it went off for 5 minutes almost, 2-3 minutes. So they had to come restart the system and do the whole check-in and everything again.
For me, I took my last exam in Brussels because everything was closed in Germany. And then during my verbal section of the exam, I got a blue screen on my computer. And it showed that the system was reconnecting. And this happened, I think, 10 to 15 times during the session. And then after the exam, I already told it during the break. And then I told it after the exam. And then I got refunded, like in the very end, the whole amount that I paid for the test and could retake it. My trial not counted as a full trial. But still, this was really annoying, and it happens in a test center. So such things can also happen to you in test centers.
Okay, that sounds like a great endorsement for the online GMAT. I think the glitches you guys had in the test centers were worse than what you dealt with on the online GMAT. And amateur sounds like no issues, test center.
No major issues. Yeah, it was the same as the test center for me. So no major issues.
You're magical. So most of the rest of the questions, I think the logistical questions about GMAT Online, I actually think, so we've got Bogdan, GMAT Club's founder, answering those on the live chat. So if you have questions about some of the logistics of how the exam works, how many times you can take it, exact dimensions of the whiteboard, those are up in the chat. So if you're not watching this live and you want to check that out, so a lot of logistical questions are up there. And I think we've actually answered most of the user questions on this. One question people ask that I think is probably worth just going around the horn and getting your answers on, gentlemen, is were your final scores, the scores that you got on your enhanced online GMAT, how did that compare to your practice exams? And I'll start with Rudolph again on that one.
My previous practice exam was a bit strange. I got a 730 with the same split that I got in the online GMAT. So I'm a bit confused how this could have happened. And I was very happy that also people from GMAT Club told me about this. I was aware of that something was strange because I remembered the same split in my practice exam 2 weeks ago. And still I got a 710, so I was confused in the very end and wrote to customer service because of this. I'm still waiting for a final answer, what's going to happen now. And the next step, maybe they are going to change my score, maybe not. I'm not perfectly sure about it. That's why I'm still waiting. Yeah.
And Amitosh, same question. So how did your actual exam compare to your practice exams in terms of your scoring?
So I had taken 2 official mocks before taking the original mock, the test. GMAT Prep 5 and 6, Prep 5 was 740, Prep 6 was 780. But I really think the 781 was an outlier because I was practicing on other tests as well. So I took Veritas test series. My average was 710, 720. So I was thinking that, and Veritas is a little tough. So I thought maybe I'm like a 750, 740 kind of a person. Thankfully, it turned out to be within bounds. So no complaints there.
And Vedant, I know your actual scores have been very consistent, but tell us a little bit about how they compared to your practice test.
So my practice test was also pretty consistent. So my first test, I gave all the 6 GMAT prep exams. I didn't give any other providers exams. I got a 780 on test 1, and all my scores stayed within 760 to 780, probably with an average of 770 across them. And my actual exams, both of them were 760 each with the same breakup.
Maybe it's also interesting to hear that I started in the very beginning from my very first practice exam with a 540, and then I developed up. It took me, I think, 28 or 30 mock exams to get where I finally got in the very end. So it was not an easy ride.
That's what makes the great debriefs. And again, all of those are posted up in the chat, all 3 of their debriefs, and they're all outstanding. I mean, all 3 of these gentlemen wrote a ton about their experiences and their journey to get to where they were. So I guess all 3 of you, would you agree with this statement that, so you all were, your final scores on the online GMAT were very, very consistent with your mock exam scores, with the little exception of Rudolph with the section scores that were identical, but a composite that was different. With that little difference, obviously your performance as far as what you did seems like it was totally consistent. So would you agree with the statement that the online GMAT didn't really feel any easier or harder or significantly different than your practice exams or your test center exam? Is that fair? And I'll start with you again, Rudolph.
For me, it was, I mean, I developed personally, but from the difficulty of both exams, like the practice exam, the physical test center exam, all was equal. I would say there was not such a big difference. It's about if you're excited or not, but I don't think that it is a different difficulty level that you encounter.
I'm being accused of leading the witness because I think there are people watching that know my opinion on all of this. So feel free to disagree with Rudolph. Amitosh, I'll go to you next.
Sure. No, yeah, I agree with Rudolph. No major changes in no major differences in difficulty level. I would say though, practice as hard questions as you can in as anxious environments as you can, because within anxiety on the D-Day, simple questions might look hard. So just try to control for that. For me, I did the Veritas test. I'm not a fan of. I'm not promoting them in any way. But they did have a good series of CR questions back to back, which got me nervous during the exam. So you need to simulate that kind of an experience to get used to all such experience probably on the D-Day. So yeah, that's what I would say here.
And Vedant?
I actually disagree with the statement. I think the online exam is definitely harder than the offline exam based on my limited experience. At the same time, I think the marking is easier. You can make more mistakes on the online exam versus offline. I think the center exam is more punishing than the online exam. Because when I got done with the online exam, I did not know what to expect. I did miss out on questions on quant, on verbal. I barely finished. The RCs are much longer in online, for instance. My first question in verbal was a bold face. Like, no warm-up. Just start off with a bold face.
Okay, so we have 2 out of 3 saying felt the same, and then Vedant felt harder, but again, the scores seem to wash out for you, which is good. Nice, consistent 760s.
I think it's less punishing, so that's an advantage of online. I think the percentiles will be the exact same. So in all likelihood, it's just a different. They could increase the difficulty, but if you can make more mistakes, it should even out. The drawback is that you need to be careful of time, so that you finish the paper.
Outstanding. And we have one more logistical question I see here, and then we'll probably wrap this up. What was scheduling like for you? Did you have a hard time at all finding test slots when you went to sign up for the exam, for the online exam specifically? And we'll go in reverse order. So Vedant, go ahead and start this one off.
So I actually had an issue because Enhanced was about to be launched. So I decided to wait for the launch to happen, and that kept getting pushed. And then when it finally got launched, I didn't get a slot on the date I wanted it. I had to delay it by 1 more week. But now I don't think there should be an issue going forward.
So you were trying to be one of the first, and that's what made it harder right at the beginning when they first launched the Enhanced Online.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The 8-minute breaks are worth it.
And somebody did ask, Vedant, we'll stay with you for a second here. How many questions do you think you left unanswered on your 2 exams where you got the 760? Were there any questions you didn't get to on either section?
Verbal, because my laptop died, I ended up missing 1 question and doing one extremely fast, but I would have just managed to finish it in time. Quant, there were topics I did not know that well. I mean, I knew everything because I studied everything, but there were some very in-depth questions that were out there. For instance, I got 8 coordinate geometry questions. That's a lot for a relatively obscure topic. So quant, I guessed in a few questions and cut corners, like this is not worth the time, I might as well move forward.
And it worked out. There's plenty of people who are asking to buy one of your extra 760s, Vedant, in case you're wondering about this. Amitosh, back to the scheduling question. Did you have any issues? Did it take you a while, hard time finding slots, or was it quick and easy?
Right. So, I mean, I had the similar opinion as with Vedant. I did want to take the enhanced GMAT exam because of the breaks. I can't do the whole exam at one stretch. It simply can't. So I thought that this break thing is very essential. So when they pushed it by a month in April, so I was a bit disappointed, but then I thought I would just go at the center and give the exam. Unfortunately, there was a huge COVID surge here in India, and we went into lockdowns in that week. So I just waited for a month and gave the exam in the first week when the enhanced exam was launched. So that's what my scheduling looked like.
And Rudolph, same question. Any trouble scheduling at all? Did it take you a while to find the right slot, or was it pretty quick?
It was not hard at all. You could just schedule it like 2 weeks in advance and then pick a time, and that was it. So I didn't have any trouble with that.
But it was a couple of weeks for the next available slot, or you just wanted to wait 2 weeks or so?
I just felt ready, so to say, and then I just opened up, and I knew that on the 20th of May, I think it was April or May. The possibility to take the online GMAT started, and then I just took the opportunity, and that was it. Basically, it was April.
Outstanding. Okay. I think we've gone through most of the viewer questions. So I'd just like to go around one last time, you guys, and just say, is there anything in particular, like if somebody's thinking about taking the online GMAT versus the test center GMAT, what are your last bits of advice? If there's one thing you'd like somebody to know before they prepare for the online version of the GMAT, what would you like them to know? And put Amitosh first.
I would say just go for it. If you're planning to give the GMAT, there's nothing stopping you for not taking the GMAT online exam. Practice well, control your nerves a little, meditate, and that's it. I don't have anything else to say here. So there aren't any issues with the exam. There aren't any demons within the exam setup. So just chill out and give it. That's it.
And Vedant, same question. If there's one piece of advice you could give to test takers who are thinking about the online version of the GMAT, what would you say?
I would say just go for it. I don't think it makes too much of a difference. Just be ready, be careful of the timing of the questions. It will be a bit lengthier, but you can afford to make more mistakes. It's the same thing, ultimately. So I would say just go for it.
And you'd also say
whatever you're more comfortable with.
And whatever it takes to get a fine tipped marker, correct?
Yes, it's worth it. It's worth the wait.
And Rudolph, same question. What's the one piece of advice you would give to somebody considering the online GMAT?
Just be prepared, and that's it. So focus, be prepared, stay calm, yeah, and show your whiteboard.
Excellent. Thank you so much, gentlemen. So again, all three of these gentlemen wrote fantastic debriefs. Check them out on the forum. They're up in the chat transcripts. I'll probably get them up in the description as well. Read their debriefs, had a lot of interesting things to say, both about the online GMAT and just about the GMAT and their journeys in general. All three of these guys worked super, super hard. Had some pretty long journeys to join the 700 Club. A few quick announcements before we call it a day here. So MBA Spotlight, if you're watching us live or you're watching us, it's June 2021 right now, if you're watching us live or watching us this month. 14th to the 30th, sign up for MBA Spotlight, lots of small group activities, lots of ways to get in contact with admissions committees, talk to students, fantastic 2.5 week long fair. So please sign up for that. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. And we're also going to be launching a GMAT Club study plan that's going to be coming right after the MBA Spotlight. So we're going to have a 13-week, so about a 3-month study plan, about 15 hours a week of homework. So keep an eye out for that on the forums as well. Thank you again for watching, everybody. Thank you so much to Amitoj, Vedant, Rudolph, 3 slayers of the GMAT. Had great experiences with the online test. If you have questions for them, come ask some questions in the forum. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And now's the part where we stare awkwardly until somebody turns this off. I don't think we're allowed to leave. Feels I could walk away and everyone can stare at my whiteboard for another 45 minutes. I think we lost our producer.
Maybe you can do a quick few RC or SE questions and get more talk.
If anybody has a sense correction question, we can do it right now. We've got 3 guys with 700s. They know what they're doing. I have no idea. Abhijit, are you with us back there? I think we lost our producer. So this is the longest live GMAT Club video outro in history.